Did you know that over 50 million Americans are foreign-born? This is over 3 times the amount of immigrants in the next highest country of Germany. Since the discovery of the continent by Europeans in 1492, this land has drawn immigrants from every country on Earth. Immigrants are what give this country its rich cultural diversity, culinary variety, and multilingualism. In this list, we will look at the 25 states with the most foreign-born residents, including both legal and illegal immigrants. We'll look at what countries they come from and why they are drawn to each specific state. Number 25 is Utah, which has a foreign-born population of 271,222, which is 8.6% of its population. The vast majority come from Mexico, making up 39.9% of the foreign-born population. This is followed by India, Canada, and El Salvador, coming in at about 3% of the foreign-born population. Many are drawn to Utah because of its natural beauty, but mainly because of its Mormon community. Mormons from around the world look to Utah as a beacon of Mormonism. Number 24 is Wisconsin, with a foreign-born population of 297,928, making up 5.1% of its population. The top country is Mexico, making up 28% of the immigrant population, followed by India at 8%, China at 5%, Laos at 4%, and the Philippines at 3%. In addition to this number, another 5% of Wisconsinites have a foreign-born parent. Wisconsin has a vibrant job market, which is attractive to those wanting to start a new life abroad. Immigrant spending power in Wisconsin added up to $7.2 billion in 2017 alone. Number 23 is Tennessee, with a foreign-born population of 348,562, which is 5.1% of the population. Immigrants make up 6.7% of Tennessee's labor force and support the local economy in many ways. Mexico once again makes up the largest percentage of the immigrants at 22%, but Guatemala takes the number 2 spot at 8.5%. This is followed by India, Honduras, and China. Many immigrants come to Tennessee, more specifically Nashville, for its job opportunities and cultural diversity. Despite being far from the southern border, and Central America in general, there is a thriving Guatemalan community in Nashville, which is evident in its restaurant scene. Number 22 is Indiana, which seems a little shocking given that it doesn't have any mega cities and isn't exactly known for its diversity, but they have a foreign-born population of 354,348, which makes up 5.3% of its population. About 60% of all undocumented migrants in Indiana have been living in the state for over 10 years. The top countries of origin for immigrants were Mexico at 30% of all immigrants, India at 9%, China 7%, Myanmar and the Philippines at 3%. While the state may not boast the same diverse immigrant populations as states on the east or west, it does offer a cheaper cost of living. Number 21 is Oregon, with a foreign-born population of 432,410, which makes up 10.3% of its population. The top countries of origin for immigrants in Oregon are, and don't be too shocked, Mexico making up 36% of immigrants in the state, followed by Vietnam at 6%, China and India at 5%, and the Philippines 4%. Oregon was the first state in the US to declare itself a sanctuary state, so it's no surprise that many undocumented immigrants may choose to head to the Beaver State. Number 20 is Minnesota, with a foreign-born population of 484,192, which makes up 8.6% of its population. While the majority of immigrants hail from Mexico, they make up only 9.8% of the immigrant population. Somalia takes the number 2 spot, making up 7.6%. In fact, Ilhan Omar is probably one of Minnesota's most famous Somali-born residents. Omar has been serving as the U.S. representative for Minnesota's 5th Congressional District since 2019. The next 3 countries of origin, all making up over 5% of all immigrants, are India, Ethiopia, and Thailand. Minnesota has a long history of welcoming refugees, largely due to its robust social service and voluntary resettlement agencies, even embracing the phrase, "a warmer welcome in a colder state," published in an article in The Economist. Number 19 is Connecticut, with a foreign-born population of 520,262, which makes up 14.61% of its population. This is the first state on this list where Mexico isn't the top country of origin. In fact, Mexican immigrants make up only 4.3% of the immigrant population, coming in at number 5. The top spot goes to Jamaica at 8.4%, followed by India at 7.1%. Taking the 3rd and 4th spots are the Dominican Republic and Poland, respectively. It should be no surprise why people would choose Connecticut. Its proximity to both New York City and Boston make it the perfect landing place for people who want to live in the suburbs while taking advantage of the big city jobs. Number 18 is Colorado, with a foreign-born population of 539,514, which makes up 9.5% of its population. The top countries of origin for immigrants were, like most other states, Mexico at 40%, India at 5%, China and Vietnam and Canada all with 3%. Nearly half of all Colorado immigrants have become naturalized U.S. citizens. Nearly a third of adult immigrants had a college degree or more education as of 2018. Number 17 is Ohio, with a foreign-born population of 555,583, which makes up 4.8% of its population. Like Connecticut, Mexico isn't the top spot here. India takes that honor with 11% of its immigrant population. Mexico does come in second, however, followed by China, the Philippines, and Somalia. An interesting statistic about Ohio is that their immigrant population outpaces Americans when it comes to college. 20% of all foreign-born Ohioans have a bachelor's degree, compared to 18.7% of US-born Ohioans. That disparity is even higher when it comes to graduate degrees. 22.3% of foreign-born Ohioans have a graduate degree, which is twice that of US-born Ohioans. Number 16 is Nevada, with a foreign-born population of 587,686, which makes up 19.4% of its population. The top 5 countries of origin for immigrants were Mexico, making up 39% of immigrants, the Philippines at 15%, El Salvador at 4%, and Cuba and China both making up 3% of all immigrants. It's no shock that Mexico is number 1, given that Nevada used to be part of Mexico, so the culture is open and welcoming to others who cross the border. Las Vegas also has an endless stream of construction projects, which employs a large number of undocumented migrants for these projects, so it goes without saying that Nevada will draw a crowd. Number 15 is Michigan, with a foreign-born population of 695,217, making up 7% of its population. Mexico takes the top spot, but not by much. Mexican immigrants make up 12.3% of all immigrants, followed by India at 10.2%. The next 3 are Iraq at 7.5%, Canada at 5%, and China at 4.5%. One of their more famous residents is Rashida Tlaib, who serves in Congress and is the child of Palestinian immigrants. She has been a voice for immigrants in her state. Number 14 is North Carolina, with a foreign-born population of 824,177, which is 7.9% of its population. North Carolina has been a hot state to move to for Americans, so it's no surprise that immigrants will be drawn to its pleasant weather, breathtaking coastline, and low cost of living. The countries that make up the top 5 places of origin are Mexico at 28%, India at 9%, Honduras at 4%, and China and El Salvador at 3%. Immigrants comprise 11% of the state's workforce, so they are a vital part of the North Carolina economy. Number 13 is Maryland, with a foreign-born population of 915,191, making up 15.1% of its population. It's not surprising that immigrants would choose Maryland, given its proximity to D.C. In fact, many of Maryland's foreign-born residents work in Washington, D.C., in various governmental capacities. In this state, people of Mexican origin don't even make the top 5. That honor goes to El Salvador with 11%. Many Salvadorans fled a 12-year civil war and economic instability, but the country has completely turned around, so many are considering a return. After El Salvador, the country with the next highest immigrant population is India with 6%, China and Nigeria at 5%, and the Philippines comes in at 4%. Number 12 is Pennsylvania, with a foreign-born population of 922,585, making up 7.2% of its population. Pennsylvania has beautiful rolling green fields, the Poconos Mountains, and 2 decent-sized cities. Their immigrant makeup is a bit different than some other states on this list, with the majority of immigrants from India, making up 10%, followed by the Dominican Republic at 9%, China, Mexico, and Vietnam round out the top 5. Number 11 comes as no surprise as it sits along our southern border and was once a part of Mexico, and that's Arizona, with a foreign-born population of 960,275, making up 13.4% of its population. Of those nearly 100,000 people, 55% of them are from Mexico. Mexican immigrants have an easier transition to a state like Arizona, where there are entire towns in Arizona with a Latin population as high as 98%. Coming in next takes us to the northern border with Canada, making up 4% of the immigrant population. They should have the opposite motto as Minnesota, a warm welcome in a scorching hot state. Number 10 is Georgia, with a foreign-born population of 1,064,073, making up 10.1% of its population. The top spot goes to Mexico with 22%, but the rest of the makeup is slightly more unique. India, Jamaica, South Korea, and Guatemala round out the list. Rural Georgia has a low cost of living, and many agricultural jobs draw migrant workers. Atlanta is also a thriving city offering more opportunities for immigrants that want cultural diversity or perhaps to find cultural similarities and fewer language barriers. Number 9 is Virginia with a foreign-born population of 1,065,076, which makes up 12.5% of its population. Like Maryland, its proximity to DC does account for some of the foreign-born residents. The top group immigrating to Virginia are from El Salvador and India, making up 9.4% and 8.6% respectively. Mexico, the Philippines, and South Korea round out the next 3. Immigrants in Virginia have a rich culture of entrepreneurship, with 20.7% of all entrepreneurs in the state being foreign-born. Number 8 is Washington State with a foreign-born population of 1,104,850, making up 14.7% of its population. Despite being on the West Coast, the demographic makeup is similar to other states on this list. Mexican-born Washington residents make up 23% of all immigrants. Washington's status as a sanctuary state has drawn in many immigrants as they can live without fear of deportation should they have an interaction with law enforcement. Number 7 is Massachusetts with a foreign-born population of 1,198,148, making up 17.4% of the population. It's no surprise why immigrants would choose Massachusetts. Boston is the state's largest city and was one of the earliest settlements in the New World. Its rich history of immigration from the Irish to the Italian to the Chinese has made it a beacon for those coming from abroad. Despite having an enormous Chinese population, many of them are now second, third, and fourth generation Massachusetts. The Dominican Republic makes up the largest chunk of foreign-born residents at 9.3%. China comes in second with 8.5%, and Brazil comes in a very close third with 7.4%. India and Haiti round out this state. Number 6 is Illinois with a foreign-born population of 1,791,313, making up 14.1% of the population. With a big city like Chicago offering a wealth of cultural and culinary diversity, it's no wonder that people would choose Illinois when immigrating to the US. The country of origin by far is Mexico, with 34.5% of all immigrants hailing from our southern neighbor. The next 4 countries don't even come close. The total number of immigrants from India, Poland, the Philippines, and China combined don't add up to those from Mexico. Chicago has been in the news a lot lately, since its status as a sanctuary state has drawn busloads of illegal migrants crossing the southern border. While it's not always easy to track and count undocumented persons, eventually there will likely be a shift in the makeup of Illinois' demographics. Number 5 is New Jersey with a foreign-born population of 2,033,292, making up 22.8% of its population. With its proximity to New York City, legal gambling, and famous coastline, New Jersey draws many immigrants because of its economic opportunities. India is the country of origin that makes up the majority of all immigrants at 12.5%. The Dominican Republic, Mexico, Ecuador, and the Philippines round out the state. Number 4 is New York with a foreign-born population of 4,447,165, making up 22.8% of its population. This state needs no introduction. Home to the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, the state's biggest city is practically synonymous with immigration. Of course, there is more to New York than just the city. Rochester, Buffalo, and Albany also boast immigrant communities. Like Chicago, New York City has been receiving more and more migrants by the day, as Texas attempts to share the burden. But what many people don't realize is that the buses from Texas are nominal compared to how many people are choosing to come to New York. The Dominican Republic makes up the largest percent of foreign-born New Yorkers at 11.5%, followed by China, Jamaica, Mexico, and Ecuador. Number 3 is Florida with a foreign-born population of 4,475,431, making up 21% of its population. South Florida feels more like Havana, Cuba than the US. Its tropical climate and mere 90-mile distance make Florida the perfect place for people brave enough to flee and take the perilous journey to Florida. In terms of countries of origin, that far and away goes to Cuba, making up 21% of all foreign-born residents. Haiti, Colombia, Mexico, and Venezuela round out the state's top immigrant groups, but those pale in comparison to the Cuban population. Anyone who visits Florida can't mistake its Cuban scene boasting some of the best Cuban restaurants in the world. Number 2 has been in the news in light of the recent migrant crisis, and that's Texas, with a foreign-born population of 4,928,025, making up 17.2% of its population. 1 in 6 Texans are foreign-born. Like Arizona, Texas was once part of Mexico, so the cultural and linguistic overlap offer no surprise as to why just over half of all immigrants in Texas come from Mexico. It's a border state, so if you are crossing in from Mexico, odds are you'll be in Texas. The next 4 countries of origin, India, El Salvador, Vietnam, and Honduras combined, don't even come close to the percent of Mexican-born Texans. And number 1 takes the cake in both raw numbers and percentage of the population, and that honor goes to California, with 10,625,980, making up a whopping 26.9% of the population. There aren't a whole lot of surprises when it comes to countries of origin. Mexico reigns supreme at 37.1%, followed in a far second by the Philippines, China, India, and Vietnam. California is a sanctuary jurisdiction, and this has resulted in a mixed opinion from the American public. Nonetheless, California prides itself on being both welcoming and a safe space for people coming to America. Immigrants make up 32.2% of California's workforce, and nearly 40% of all STEM workers in California are foreign-born. Over half of all California immigrants are naturalized U.S. citizens, so the American dream is alive and well in the Golden State.